brother.
Yeah, baby.
Brother.
Oh, yeah. Welcome back to another episode of the Deep Six Wrestling Podcast. It is Thursday, February 2nd. Happy Groundhog's Day to everybody who celebrates. This is the Impact Power Hour. I am Ryan.
I am Angelo.
And we're back. I think this is our first, that we're back in 2023. I think.
This definitely is at least first one I've been on.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I've did a few in January. Did one for Hard to Kill.
This is my return.
Yeah, so I think we are back together again for the first time in 2023. So yeah, good stuff.
So while it is really old news, and I don't remember if I did it on the year-end podcast. I don't think he passed at that time, but rest in peace, Don West. He was the voice of my childhood while watching TNA back in the day. And, I can't necessarily say I can remember specific moments, but I mean, his voice was on every call, and him and Mike Tenay kind of made TNA that rowdy, stepchild wrestling, show. Instead of watching Monday Night Raw or Friday Night SmackDown, you had to listen to those two, and it was a great time growing up. So,
yeah. I feel like we've got rest in peace, Don West. We have I don't think we've done an episode, or I did an episode since Jay Briscoe passed. So rest in peace him as well. Former Impact talent and Impact Tag Team Champion. I totally forgot that happened.
Yeah, that is true. He recently was on Impact. I think since Ring of Honor closed, a lot of Ring of Honor specific talent was starting to hit the indie scene more and be on different television platforms, whether it was AEW or Impact. Obviously, there's the whole story of why Warner Brothers didn't want the Briscoe brothers on, but Impact gave them the chance, and they excelled for a little bit here. They didn't stay long. They're big names, but when given their moments, that was it. They had a pretty good shot.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess rest in peace, Lenny Poffo, who passed today.
Yes, yeah. I mean, he has his own wrestling career of his own, but I think many people will remember him as the brother of Macho Man Randy Savage. So
yeah. With that out of the way, make sure to follow the Deep Six Wrestling Podcast on social media at Twitter, which is at Deep Six Wrestling. We're not paying for no Twitter Blue. Absolutely not. We don't have a check mark, but yeah. I did some live tweeting of the show today. I hadn't done it in a while because when I did it twice, we got no interactions or anything like that. So I stopped doing it and we didn't always watch it when it was live or at the same time or anything like that. So yeah, tried it out tonight, got some likes, get to see how many views each tweet gets. So that's something. And also follow us on YouTube, Deep Six Wrestling Podcast. Yeah. So Impact.
Yeah. Before we get into Impact, I'm just reading Don West's wiki a little bit more. And I knew he had a big sales background before he, became the salesman of TNA. Then they let him run commentary. But he had a pretty successful career. It seems like this is between 1993 and 2001. The company worked at Shop at Home Network. Sales rose from $3 million to $150 million. And then Will Ferrell and Chris Catton parodied and his co-host, I guess, on that Shop network on 3 episodes of Saturday Night Live. So I guess they were a big deal on TV at one point.
Yeah, I never knew that.
Yeah, I never knew that. We'll have to look that up another time. So
yeah, the fact that if you get Saturday Night Live to spoof you,
right,
you must be doing something
Will Ferrell is impersonating, or the other guy is impersonating Don West. That's must see TV.
Yeah, I've never even heard of this.
Yeah,
it's news to me. We're definitely gonna have to find that out. So Impact started off the night as we've said numerous times, they often do with a hot match, and that hot match this week was Ace Austin and Chris Bey versus KUSHIDA and Kevin Knight, one of the young lions of the LA dojo for New Japan.
Who made his Impact debut last week.
Right.
Yeah.
Commentary points out that he is from Atlanta. These are still from the Atlanta shows, so makes sense why the crowd is really hot for, a guy who's basically training or like a young lion enhancement talent for New Japan. That makes more sense. But yeah, this was a really, really, really strong match to start off the show. I thought that it really reminds everybody just how good. If you haven't seen Kushida since NXT or haven't paid attention to him when he was in Impact last year, for the few minutes he was there, basically, definitely reminds you how good he is. Also, if this was your first time seeing Kevin Knight, you might think guy's pretty good.
Yeah, he's a pretty athletic fella.
Yeah. Ace Austin, Chris Bey. I mean, they've been in the Impact for a while now, so if you're familiar with the Impact product, you probably know these two already and how good their chemistry is together as a tag team. Commentary pointed out that these two teams have faced each other before during Super Junior Tag League in New Japan last year. So, yes. I didn't watch that at all. I know Pat watched some of it. And yeah. Anyway,
Bey and Ace Austin did win that battle.
Yes. And they did win this as well. There were two really cool spots in this match. One's
barn burner spot.
Yeah. One was I retweeted it when Impact posted it. Was Kevin Knight goes for a springboard move from the outside, like on the apron, and as he jumps up into midair, Chris Bey, who is not a very tall man, nails him at like the highest part of the jump, square in the chest with his drop kick. Thought that was really good. There was also a little chicken fight moment where the two teams were stacked on top of their partners, and they were fighting. I thought that was cool. Definitely unique. But yes. The big spot that I think people will probably see, and I feel like this is one of those moments that Impact will get a lot of views on, at least on social media.
It'll definitely be like, how they do on the BTI, where they do like the top 5 social media moments. This will definitely make the top 5 for next week.
Oh, absolutely. Kevin Knight again going for a springboard, this time from outside of the ring, or from inside the ring to the outside. And Chris Bey, who is perched up on the top rope, goes and nails him with out of the sky with an art of finesse onto the apron. This looked extremely painful.
Yeah,
but it also
at this point
really
it's basically it's a jumping reverse stunner.
Yes.
So. Yeah. But no, it was a pretty cool execution. How could you perfectly get that clean? That's impossible. But it was pretty cool. The crowd reaction was pretty electric there. Like everyone got out of their seats. So
yeah, it was a very, very, very impressive spot. Definitely was. It's not something I'd seen Bey do before in that particular spot. So very cool. And this would end up leading to the win because they would bring Kevin Knight back in, hit another art of finesse, and Ace Austin would hit the fold for the win. And Ace Austin and Chris Bey move on. I thought this was really hot start to the show, and was looking forward to the rest of the show because I figured, hey, if you're starting off this strong, The rest of the show's got to be
and
strong.
Impact is notorious for their good hot starts with either an X Division match or guys that are featured in the X Division, and they did it right here.
Yeah, and as last year, I constantly said that like some of like when they go for these X Division or hot tag matches, it seems like they normally bookend the show with two really good, really strong matches. And it seemed like they were going to do that again this week, as we already knew the main event was going to be Josh Alexander, Rich Swann, Yuya Uemura, and Frankie Kazarian versus Callihan and the Design. Which I guess Callihan still isn't officially a member of the Design. As he gets a separate name. And we would learn later in the show that, he's not officially a member because he has to get the seven deadly steps.
Exactly.
Yeah. The other members didn't have to go through that, I don't think.
I don't think Big Con did. No,
I don't remember. I don't remember those.
Unless they snuck it in BTI when we weren't watching.
Please.
Yeah. So before we jump into the next thing, I actually did watch the match at BTI today, and I thought it was actually pretty important. So I'll bring it up.
Okay.
I can't even remember the guys. It's Jonathan Gresham.
Yes.
But it's against I want to say Aiden English.
Yeah, Aiden Prince.
Aiden Prince. Yeah, Aiden English is the guy out of Vaudevillains.
Yeah.
So Aiden Prince, because he's like an enhancement talent that's been around a bit.
Yeah.
With Impact. So not a bad match overall. I mean, Jonathan Gresham's really got to like win me over personally. Like I didn't watch his Ring of Honor run. I wasn't, invested in Ring of Honor at the time. And the way he left the wrestling industry definitely left like a salty taste in my mouth. Like he, Tony Khan kind of came to a decision, wanted to put the Ring of Honor belt on a different guy. And Jonathan Gresham took heavy offense to that. I mean, maybe there was more backstage than just that. I mean, the guy left wrestling for a few months and now he's signed with Impact. So actually this BTI was pretty important because he had, at the end of the match, he obviously wins against Aiden Prince. He grabs the mic and says like, I took a couple months and, basically took a look at the landscape and I decided Impact, after Ring of Honor closed, now I'm here at Impact. And with that, he challenges Mike Bailey for the next pay-per-view.
Okay.
So, but I think that was good that he like addressed the crowd there because it was like it's top of mind for me. It's like he just came off a loss to Eddie Edwards. Like what's really the direction for him? And the direction is he's just gonna have awesome matches with everyone on the roster. So that's good with me.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of Mike Bailey seems like he's getting another big. Looks like he's gonna have another big WrestleMania weekend or planned for him.
Oh boy!
As GCW announced that they got Kota Ibushi fresh out of New Japan for Josh Barnett's Bloodsport, and then announced that that is going to main event is going to be Kota Ibushi's return to wrestling, which I believe is the first time since 2021. Or 2020, beginning of 2022, maybe. And that he will be facing Speedball Mike Bailey.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy.
So
I will want to watch that. So
yeah,
that's a good match.
Yeah, I'm sure Mike Bailey's gonna be doing a shit ton of matches again because he's a crazy person when it comes to how many matches he does. I think last WrestleMania weekend he did 7 in 3 days or something.
Yeah,
which just ridiculous.
Workhorse.
Yeah. So we did get a backstage segment with the Design. That would be, I believe, a little bit later. So we'll talk about that when it comes up. But we did get the announcement after this match that we are getting a new debut next week. It is going to be Steph Delander debuting. Who, if you watched NXT and NXT 2.0, she was Persia Parada. Yeah. So another pickup for Impact, it seems, in their Knockouts division. This follows the basically last week, or Tasha Steelz walked out on her team. And it seems like she is taking a break. As has been reported, she's been giving time off from Impact for at least the next month. So yeah, one leaves, you get another person in.
Yeah, and fair for Tasha. I mean, she's been pretty much part of the products consistently.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Started watching, so
yeah. This would lead us to our next match, which was Savannah Evans versus Gisele Shaw. So speaking of Tasha Steelz, who walked out on their match last week, I believe. Now we've got the Tasha's former tag partners facing off against each other here. Savannah cuts a promo beforehand. That was while she was walking down the entrance. They aired, calling out Gisele for being the Black Widow of the Impact locker room, and that she's going to learn that Savannah doesn't need Tasha by her side to do big things and win matches. She's done stuff all by herself already in Impact, which commentary points out she does have wins against multiple members of the Death Dolls, who are the current tag team champions. But that was not to be today, as Gisele Shaw would end up picking up the win in what felt like a very short match. I don't think it was as short as I thought it was. It just felt like it was over really quickly. And I don't know why. But
yeah,
it
I think it
seemed to
like
flash by.
Lack of huge spots. I mean, that's fair. I think Savannah Evans is a little green still, but I mean, she showed pretty well in this match.
Yeah.
And obviously we know Gisele Shaw is a really good talent.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's very interesting what they're going with Gisele Shaw, and she points this out afterwards. She grabs a mic and talks about how everybody's been labeling her the Black Widow of Impact Wrestling because all her tag teams that she tries to team up with leave. She talks about how the Influence left. They're no longer an Impact. Tasha's now no longer an Impact. Chelsea Green's no longer an Impact after she tags with them. And she says that's fine. She's never wanted to make it the focus, a focal point that she wants to be a tag team person. Her whole goal has been to destroy everybody in the Knockouts locker room. And if this is the way that has to be, so be it. And she's going to prove that the spotlight is now and forever going to stay on the quintessential diva. I thought this was a good promo. I thought this was a good evolution to her gimmick, and I'm all for it. I'd like to see where this goes.
Yeah, what about Savannah Evans? What's she's
I
put
don't
on
know.
The shelf, basically. I mean, she might have a couple kind of talent enhancement matches, but I can't imagine Impact's gonna run with her too much.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like she's somebody that is, if you need if you have a number one contender and you need them to jump through a hurdle or prove themselves, she's a good person to face.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that she's somebody that you could plug and play in a number one contenders match. Like if you're having a multi-person match, throw her in there. Other than that, yeah, I don't know. I guess we'll have to see how long Tasha's out and if she comes back and joins right back up with Savannah Evans, or if they're going to have different character development for both of them. I don't know. Yeah, that's a good thing to see. Yeah, it'll definitely be a thing to look out for. I started to talk about the design thing because I thought it was after this match that happened, but it was before the match. The design is talking to Sami Callihan about how or Callihan now, because everybody has to have only one name in the group, about how he failed to win the 6-shooter revolver match or whatever it was called last week. And that was supposed to be step 3 of his program. But it's okay. He's asked for forgiveness. And that is what step 4 is forgiveness. And he's going to have to prove that tonight in the main. And this is still bizarre to me to see a group of people who I think could be argued to be all a bunch of, fall guys from their previous groups. Looking at Sami Callihan, the former world champion, Sami Callihan, and acting like he is lower than them.
It is a little weird.
It's very odd.
It's like kind of reminiscent of Bryan Danielson and the Wyatt.
Yes.
Like Bray Wyatt, was obviously like a fringe main event caliber talent at that point.
Yes.
But they're beating up on him and making him join the Wyatts when he was a generational talent on the indie scene for a really long time.
Yes.
So I think
it's not unheard of.
Yeah, right. It's not unheard of. It's similar vibes. They're tearing them down. Even Rhino being part of the design in a way is, he's at a different point in his career than he was in 2000. But, in the same way, Rhino was a very tenured veteran, and the design, or Violent by Design at that time, broke him down.
Yeah.
So.
But to be fair, Violent by Design, much bigger star power than the design currently. You have Eric Young, former multi-time world champion. You had Joe Doring, who was, I believe, a multi-world champion in
he was in
Noah. All Japan, my bad. And Rhino, multi-time champion in different companies.
Yeah, no, it doesn't hold his water as much, but they do get a main event spot here tonight, and we can talk about it more later.
Yeah,
the match, because I think it gives them a good spot. But
after this, we go backstage, and Kenny King is walking backstage, and he hears somebody mention Rich Swann, and he's like, "Why aren't people talking about me? I just exposed Mike Bailey. I was victorious in exposing Mike Bailey as the homicidal maniac that he truly is. I've exposed it to everybody, and nobody wants to talk about me. They're all talking about Rich Swann. Get out of here with that." He keeps on walking, and then the true goats of Impact Wrestling, Johnny Swinger and Zicky Dice, show up.
To save the day.
Yeah, and they interrupt his walk and talk about the Bangles for some reason.
Yeah. Well, they start with I thought it was like Dango, and then they just had Bangles.
Yeah.
I have no idea.
Yeah, you never know with these guys, and that's what makes them so brilliant.
That is what makes them brilliant.
So Kenny King is talking down to both these guys. And Zicky Dice interrupts and says, "Whoa, do you know who you're talking to? You're talking to the Johnny Swinger. He's been in this business for decades. He can teach you all about how to be rise on the cards. And you know what? You should have a match with him tonight."
Yeah, and Johnny Swinger's like face like, "Oh no.
Yeah, Swinger's not having this. Apparently, this entire time, Johnny Swinger was on his cart. So backstage, he's even just hangs out in the little cart that they push him down in.
That is quite brilliant.
So Kenny King says, "Oh, you know what? I'll go find Santino, and we'll make this a match." And Swinger looks at Zicky. He's like, "What'd you get me into?" And Zicky's like, "Hey, man, you need to start picking up those wins you need 50 of them to get that title shot.
A bit to go.
So you need to get into any match you can, and this is a good opportunity.
Might as well start with Kenny King, right?"
Yeah, somebody trying to prove themselves, and is angry at everybody. Yeah, why not throw in Kenny King? So we go back, fades to black. We come back, and Kenny King is leaving Santino, as Santino has granted him his match. And Macklin shows up. Macklin says, "Hey, I see that, I wasn't part of the 6-shooter match because I wasn't a former champ, but, the new number one contender is I beat them at Hard to Kill. So the only real fair thing is that since I beat the number one contender, I should be in the match at No Surrender, make it a triple threat, me, Josh, and Swann. And Santino says, nope. Instead, I'm having 4 singles matches leading up to No Surrender. And the winners of each of those matches will be in a 4-way at No Surrender to determine the next number one contender. And you will be in one of those 4 matches. Macklin's not very happy about this. Out comes Dirty Dango to interrupt and tell him to move along because he is acting like he is security or a police officer. And
it's a weird dynamic there.
Yeah, Santino's very confused.
I mean, I guess, it's a play on his fashion police days.
Absolutely. You gotta give the people the hits.
You gotta give, you got Santino, you got, Fandango of the fashion police. Like,
yeah.
This is Throwback Thursday now.
And it's not even the end of it.
Not even the end of the throwbacks. Oh my gosh.
So Dango gets Macklin to go, and Santino turns to him. He's like, "What the hell is this?" He's like, "Well, last week you were practically begging me to join you and help you with your dictator, director of authority thing, and this is me accepting." And he's like, "No, I wasn't doing any of that. Go away. Yeah, you'll have a match." Dango is getting one of the matches in the the 4 singles matches to name people for Fatal 4-Way at No Surrender. Interesting. Definitely not what I was thinking as somebody who's, world champ material, but hey, it's Dango. Why not?
Dango beat Chris Jericho.
Yeah, we know that. Stop this.
WrestleMania debut match.
Oh my God. Yeah, Action Andretti beat Jericho in his AEW Dynamite debut. Does that mean he's a world champion material now?
It's not WrestleMania, buddy.
Fair.
I mean, obviously the brass at WWE was really high on Fandango at some point, and
I don't know what happened. How do you go from beating pretty white hot Jericho at the time?
Yeah.
To never. I don't think he ever won a singles title.
No, I don't even know if he challenged for one. To be honest,
he
challenged for one.
It's utterly bizarre.
Yeah, they just fumbled that bad. I mean, it was at a bad time because it was pretty close to when also at a WrestleMania Ryback lost to Mark Henry for no goddamn reason.
Because Mark Henry is the GOAT.
Yeah, I guess, but he had a white hot Ryback on his undefeated streak, and
that's part of the reason why everybody wants Ryback back.
Yeah, according to his Twitter polls.
Yeah. The Twitter polls that definitely always say retire. He swears he's not retiring.
I did not intend to.
He also never works. I don't think I've ever seen a poster for Ryback wrestling on the indies.
No, I don't think he does that anymore. Besides the Northeast Wrestling that we saw him at. I saw him at with a couple other Deep Six members.
Oh man, I didn't know that.
Right? Wasn't he? He was at the Six Flags Northeast Wrestling show.
That must have been one that I did not go to.
No, that's why you didn't go to that one.
Okay.
And it was the Jerry Lawler was on the card, so they did a tag match together.
Oh, okay. So interesting.
Yeah, wonderful. Ryback has clearly stated he's not really doing indies anymore. Anyway, I don't mean to rip on Ryback here. My point was Fandango was at one point held very highly by WWE brass, and whatever happened, nothing really happened. I mean, the Fashion Police was entertaining, but that definitely wasn't the goal with Fandango the way they were pushing him.
Yeah.
Are you gonna be able? Is he gonna be able to salvage his career and Impact? I mean, the way it's going, he's kind of coming in like No Way Jose was. Like, this is just, a funny gimmick.
Yeah.
And WWE just threw away the funny gimmick, so Impact's picking it up. Kind of like Santino itself. So I don't really see much more than maybe you get a couple months out of Fandango.
Well,
I know they signed
multi-year deal, Angelo.
I know, but then that doesn't mean anything. I feel like I don't know.
I think the stranger part about this is that last year Fandango said that like by the summer he was retiring from wrestling forever.
Right.
And now he first signed like right after that he like first signed like a short-term deal with NWA, and now he's signed a multi-year deal with Impact. Which is the opposite of retiring last summer.
Obviously he's, a well-coveted asset, and I mean like I said, he had potential, and you can see he's an entertaining character.
Oh yeah, he's absolutely entertaining
when given the opportunity. It's just it's a weird spot for him in his career at this point, because he's like teetering towards the edge. Like, is this even worth it for me? Impact's like, if you're not on the top, I feel like you got to be someone that's trying to ascend and build your career, and it doesn't seem like he's interested in necessarily doing that anymore. So he's here for the gags, I guess.
Yeah,
he lives in Florida, so like going to the Atlanta taping isn't too hard, I guess. It'll be interesting to see if he travels.
Yeah. Well, hey, if he wins his match, he'll be going to Vegas.
I don't think he'll win a single match this year in Impact.
Whoa.
unless it was on BTI.
Oh, I'm holding Angelo too. Okay.
Yeah, that's my hot take.
After this, we get Crazy Steve versus Sheldon Jean in a match. Crazy Steve wins this. It's just an enhancement little match.
We're in a world. I blink, and we're in a world where we're pushing Crazy Steve now.
Yeah. Crazy Steve going for the X Division title here. After the match, as Crazy Steve looks to celebrate, Trey Miguel comes down, attacks Black Taurus at ringside, comes into the ring with his patented vintage spray paint, attacks Crazy Steve. Looks like he's going to spray Crazy Steve with the spray paint, even though Crazy Steve's face is already painted. So I don't know what the spray paint's really going to do to him here. He's also already legally blind. So anyway, Crazy Steve bites his hand. Trey loses control of the spray paint. Crazy Steve has the spray paint and looks like he's going to go and attack Trey with it. But no, he just tags Trey Miguel's logo onto himself and then starts spraying the spray paint into the air as the lights go back off for him. This is the continuation of this Decay versus Trey Miguel feud that started with Black Taurus getting screwed out of 2 matches with Trey because of spray paint. And yeah, the logical step is we'll throw Crazy Steve in and continue this instead of just give a third match between Trey and Black Taurus.
I feel like they're wasting Trey's time here.
I mean, it's going to give him wins.
It's going to give him wins, but I don't know. I mean, and not to totally crap on Crazy Steve. I mean, he's a good hand.
Yeah.
And he's been around the company for a long time, but I feel like you're not utilizing Trey in a way that shows his talent week in and week out. I mean, you're letting him develop as a heel, which he probably, if he wants to excel in his career. But beyond that, he's not really like you're just missing out on opportunities. Like how you use Mike Bailey every week and you show out his wrestling ability. Like they should kind of do that with Trey.
Yes.
So
currently Trey has had 2 really good matches with Black Taurus that were wacky endings. Then had a X Division title match,
right, against
Mike Jackson, and now the feud is Crazy Steve.
Yeah,
it's bizarre.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. They're trying to build him up a little bit because, like, you don't have a match you don't have an X Division star going against Mike Jackson to make, the X Division star look good because, you have to hang with Mike Jackson, understandably, 17 years old. But it's establishing his presence as a heel, even though I didn't even think he did that well in that match last week, honestly.
Yeah, no.
It was more about watching Mike Jackson be silly than
Trey. You mean be great?
Himself. Yeah, I mean, he was great. Yeah,
I think he's got future world champ written all over him.
I just depends what company.
Yeah, I didn't say what company. Could be new Northeast Wrestling.
Could be Northeast Wrestling. Yeah.
After this, we go backstage, and Jordan Grace is backstage and talking with Gia Miller and says that there's clear proof that Mickie James did tap out at Hard to Kill, and that the fans can go back and watch the match and see for themselves and make their own judgments. But she's not trying to hold on to that too much because she has a guaranteed rematch with whoever is the Knockouts champion, whether it is Masha or it is Mickie James. But she's looking forward to Steph DeLander showing up because she wants to show that she apparently Steph is thrown out a challenge to anyone in Impact, and Jordan is accepting it. I think this will kind of prove where they see Steph DeLander at. If she's gonna have a competitive match with Jordan, or if this is just like a one-off thing and they're just like hyping it up as a debut or what. But it does seem weird that they cut a vignette for her.
Cut a vignette, and now she's facing Jordan, and Jordan's one that you would think like would take an L. Like if you want someone to get a nice clean, debut win, you face them against Alicia, or even Gisele Shaw because she's
or Savannah Evans.
Yeah. Well, not even. No, first would be Alicia. That's everyone's. That's the stepping stone.
That's fair. It would have been Taylor Wilde.
But now she's got something spicy going on.
Yeah.
Maybe a little more mild.
Yeah.
Hot mild.
It's about medium spice now.
Yeah, right.
Anyway, back to our Impact here. We've got Santino backstage after this. And he walks into this room and Raven is sitting there and he's like, oh man, I need a genius to help me out here with this Impact title stuff. I'm coming to you. Help me out here. You're Mensa certified.
He goes, give me an idea. Like, what should I do?
Yeah.
With the world title?
Yeah, and Raven says, you want me to help you and give you ideas for how Impact can start making money? Give me the world championship. Name me world champion. People will love it. Everybody, and Santino's like, what the fuck? It just leaves.
Santino just walked out, essentially. Without thinking about it, walked out.
And then a big tall man shows up. And if you're like me, you're like, who the fuck is this? Then Ravens, he says, oh, are we getting the flock back together? I'm like, okay, so it's somebody from Raven's flock. And Raven says, oh, shut it, you Yeti. And I was like, holy shit, is this who I think it is? Sure enough, yes, it is. It is the former WCW Yeti, also known as Reese in WCW and ECW as part of Raven's flock. But yeah, it was the Yeti, everybody's favorite WCW gimmick, where he never came out as a abominable snowman. He came out as a mummy, and then would, if I'm not mistaken, he would then turn it into the 7-foot ninja gimmick. So
just didn't know what to do with them.
Yeah, this made me pop once I found out who that was.
Fair. But let it be known they did try to call CM Punk first for the role of course, the Yeti, but he was rehabbing, so that he didn't want to show up to Impact.
It's true. After this, we get easily my least favorite segment in Impact in quite some time.
Oh boy.
Bully Ray comes out to the ring. And he has his favorite thing in the world going on for him. He has heat. Loads and loads of heat.
Lots of heat.
He's ripping up signs. He's yelling at children. Crowd is booing.
Thinks he's in 1995 ECW.
Yeah, I thought he was gonna start cutting his Heat Wave promo.
And homophobic slurs again.
Yeah. And he tries to start his promo and the crowd keeps booing. So he tries to start it again in a gap. The crowd starts booing again. And he tries it a third time, and he just is like, fuck it, I'm just going to talk over you guys. He says that, I think people don't like me. The wrestlers don't like me. Management doesn't like me. The fans don't like me. This little girl who I yelled at doesn't like me in the front row. Why doesn't anybody like me? Because I tell it like it is, unlike that phony Tommy Dreamer who everybody likes, but he's a phony. He's a snake. I've never liked him. I didn't like him in ECW. I didn't like him in WWE, and I sure as hell don't like him on Busted Open. But the whole part of this whole feud. Remember, this little feud started because Tommy Dreamer and Bully Ray liked each other, and then they didn't. So,
well, it's more than that, right?
I know, but it's silly to be like, we've never liked each other, but you call each other brothers. Tommy was going to bat for you for weeks when you showed up. Clearly, it wasn't a mutual dislike of each other.
I know, yeah. The way they turn it around now, because right, it would be different. It was like, I used. Well, I mean, he kind of did say that I used him for 30 years, essentially.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I'm following along with this part. I don't think this is where you have the total issue, anyway.
No, absolutely not.
But I think I'm giving this a little more grace.
Yeah.
Than you might be.
Yeah. The issue I have is what happens next, because who comes out? It's not Tommy Dreamer. It's Mickie James. And now I understand why she's coming out. Bully interrupted her last week or 2 weeks ago. She's interrupting him. And this is where things get weird, because this feels like it's just it feels like this is just trying like a rehash of everything Bully had just said, but Mickie is saying it instead, where she says, "Oh, you think everybody doesn't like you? Well, they don't like you. You think Tommy Dreamer doesn't like you on Busted Open? And yeah, I can tell that you guys don't like each other on Busted Open. Yeah, no shit. Like that's the whole gimmick here." And she talks about how last time we were in a ring together, I told you to get out of the ring. This time I'm telling you to get out of Impact Wrestling. And Bully Ray says, I'd hit you, but you're not worth it, because I've done worse things to worse things to better women than you.
It's referring to Mae Young.
Yeah, Mae Young or Dixie Carter.
Dixie Carter.
Or any of the different female talents that he's Bubba bombed or 3D'd through tables.
Yeah.
He calls her here the Tramp instead of the Champ. And Mickie slaps him across the face, and then he goes to power slam her, or just, I don't know what he was trying to do, but the whole time Mickie is smiling. It doesn't look like she's in pain. It doesn't look like she's upset about the situation. She just has a big old smile across her face. He hits her with the move, and then he calls down for the good hands, Jason Hotch and John Skyler, to come down and get a table for him. And he goes to get her in position for the Bubba Bomb through the table, but they can't get the table up, and by the time he's ready, Tommy Dreamer's out there with a kendo stick.
All right, I'm gonna stop you right here.
Okay.
So I think I realized what is so not enjoyable about Mickie James in 2023. I just think like everything she does is just, it feels like an oversimplified character that like it worked in 2006, but it's just insulting now.
Yes.
To kind of watch it, and like as simple as this promo, like she Bully Ray just calls her a tramp, and then that sets her off. Like, it didn't even have to go deeper than that.
Yes.
She didn't even have to be out there. First of all, her win against Jordan Grace, it wasn't clean, which is fine. But for her, I'm assuming they're trying to keep her a babyface, saves the day type of character. You can't give her a clean win, and then they don't even really she doesn't even really address it.
Yeah.
There's just a lot of character development that just seems very lacking for someone that's supposed to be, the best women's veteran on your roster. And I don't know if I have patience for it anymore.
Yeah. I think this was our complaint last year when she started off the year as champion. At least my complaint was that her promo skill, or her promos, not her skills, but the way she did cuts promos was still very WWE early or mid 2000s WWE style promos, where you're acting like you're the top woman because you're the champ, but that because you're the champ, you get to do all this. You get to make your matches. You get when that's never been established in Impact. That all her promo style, or all her promos are basically, oh, you want to see this happen? You want to do this? You want me to repeat every single thing that the heel threw back at you and try to get the crowd to pop for everything you say over and over again? And it's just silly because everything shouldn't be go back to that from early to mid 2000 stuff.
Right. It's very formulaic, and I guess when you say it like that, it kind of reminds me of like a John Cena reign, or
yes,
like how Austin could, or Stone Cold Steve Austin could, keep a crowd. And I think she's that's what she learned, and that's how she, as champion, as leader of your division, that's how she's gonna act. But it just doesn't stick very well, I feel like, in this era of wrestling, and especially this is Impact Wrestling, and the crowds are small. You don't really have that crowd play like you might have in WWE.
Yeah. It also doesn't help that the feud is Masha versus Mickie, but it feels like Masha's the oversight at this point, and it's now Mickie versus Bully Ray.
Yeah, that's
which doesn't need to happen in 2023. Hell, it didn't need to happen in 2012.
No, that's silly as well. Unless if this is a scapegoat way to bring in Nick Aldis. I don't know. I just don't see why they had to mix these two in together.
Yeah. If Mickie wasn't the champ, and this is just hey, we're just a veteran squabble type thing going on.
Yeah, that's
I'm fine with that. That's
literally
a totally
just won the
different
title
thing.
off of Jordan Grace, who was a pretty good dominant champion, and now you're kind of sidebarring the title for a feud with Bully Ray and Tommy Dreamer.
Yeah, and the good hands,
right?
Who comes out of this looking good? The 50-plus-year-old part-time talent and the Knockouts champion, or the two people who, kind of need to be taken seriously instead of just being bullies, goons.
Yeah, I mean, there's parts of this that just make it feel like this is the bad part of TNA.
Yes,
this is stuff that was the reason why people lost interest in TNA, and they're letting Bully rehash some of it. And
yes,
James, honestly, they're letting her rehash some of it in this. So, I think the saving grace for me is I love Tommy Dreamer's work.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna take it with a grain of salt, and I hope something good comes out of it, and probably just some blow off match with Tommy and Bully Ray at some point.
Yeah.
But it's a little painful right now.
Yeah. Yeah, I assume this leads to a match, maybe at No Surrender, or maybe they push it.
I mean, I think there could be a one-on-one No Surrender, and then I think it seems like you could do Mickie and Dreamer versus Masha and Bully.
Yeah,
that's definitely a possibility, but which stinks because then you're kind of holding the women's title hostage when there's a pretty loaded singles women's roster.
Yeah, it definitely is going to depend on how long Bully is sticking around in Impact.
Yeah,
and
I think it's telling that they through Killer. Well, we're not even there yet, but I think it's telling what they did with the other two women in the singles picture.
Yeah.
So,
after
so now I cut you off before even come out.
Yeah, so Dreamer challenges the Good Hands to a match because he's hardcore and she's country, and that means that they're ready for a fight. And they want the Good Hands, and the Good Hands just say no and walk away. But out comes Santino, and this man is stumbling and bumbling over every word he says, as good old Santino does. He calls himself the dictator. Then he's like, I meant the director. He calls Bully Ray Bobby Ray. And
he said Tommy Dreamer's like generic
Tommy the Dreamer.
Tommy a Dreamer, and he's like wearing generic gym clothes.
Yeah.
So he's ready to fight.
Yeah, he's ready to fight, but we're not going to do it tonight. And so we'll do it next week. And yeah, again, I don't need to see this.
No,
this isn't something I'm looking forward to. But the big thing is that Bully Ray is banned from ringside. And so that leads Bully to go look at. He's not very happy about this. Anyway, we'll get to what Bully does later, but this would take us to what Angelo was talking about. The two other women who were in the title picture, it seemed, Killer Kelly and Taylor Wilde. Killer Kelly is cutting a promo about how it seems like her and Taylor are destined to fight and play with each other more. And she likes that. And Taylor Wilde just interrupts and is like, "Oh, I didn't mean like that. I mean, like, I want to be in your corner because the spirits tell me that we're going to be partners and work together." And Killer Kelly says, "That sounds fun, but who would I get to play with?" And the Death Dolls just appear because Rosemary can teleport everybody. And she points out that, Taylor's hearing stuff from the dark spirits of the undead realm, and Rosemary knows all about them. And if you want somebody to play with, well, there's nobody better than the Death Dolls. There's also nobody else in the tag division. So
yeah, no.
This is my biggest complaint, and it's been our biggest complaint since the Knockouts tag titles came about. And basically, anybody who loses the tag titles or isn't involved in the tag title picture anymore just breaks up. We are down to 2 teams again. This is not how you build a healthy division, by just having a rotating. You have one established team, and then we're gonna make up a team real quick.
No, I don't want to get too mad about it. I mean, the titles are made for the inspiration. The inspiration left. It is
just retire them at this point.
I know. I mean, as long as Decay's there, they're entertaining enough. But like beyond that, I can't. There's nothing on the roster I could see that would be a sustained, good champion, good tag champion besides the Decay at this point.
Yeah, that's fair.
But I'll let him ride. Let him have it. It is what it is. And this is an interesting way to book Taylor Wilde now. A kind of similar argument to what I was saying earlier about Fandango. It's like I don't know where Taylor Wilde is trying to go in her career necessarily, but if I was the booker, I would have had her win that fatal 4-way at Hard to Kill, and given her the first title defense against Mickie, not realizing they're going to sidetrack her with this Bully Ray feud. I would have given her the first match with Mickie, even though they just faced each other kind of recently, but that's just Taylor's new gimmick. Have Taylor lose, let her fizzle out. It is what it is. But I guess maybe this is a good way, having this team with Killer Kelly could maybe extend her run in Impact a little longer than I would have guessed she would have been around. Yeah. So, I think it's fine. I think it's a good way to keep the roster active.
Yeah. We'll see. We've we are told at the end of the show that the Death Dolls will be facing Killer Kelly and Taylor Wilde in a non-title match next week. So
usually when you do that, that means they could, they're likely to get a title match.
Yes.
So I think that's a good sign. And even if it lasts just till the pay-per-view, it's better than nothing.
Yeah. After this is Kenny King versus Johnny Swinger. This is exactly what you would expect from a Johnny Swinger match.
You know what?
And by that, I mean brilliance.
Yeah, it was brilliant. I was going to say, I don't know what I would expect, but it was brilliant. It was a lot longer than I thought it would be.
I thought this was going to be like a two moves of doom match.
Yeah, I just assumed, right, it was going to be a high kick and done. But Johnny Swinger really, really milked it out. I don't think he actually got any successful offense in.
He grabbed his leg.
That's like a hold. I don't know if there's any pain caused in that. Because he threw 2 punches, but they were blocked.
Yeah, but then he grabbed his leg and held it and shook his finger at him.
Yeah,
that does emotional damage.
I mean, it might have emotionally hurt Kenny King, and so Kenny King wins this match. That's obvious. Yes. But what we see is I think Kenny King is emotionally hurt here.
Yeah.
Because he's he got knocked out by Mike Bailey, and he's now calling him like a maniac essentially. And it hurt his ego. Yes. And he wants to, repair his ego. And I think this is not necessarily saying, Johnny Swinger is a really good stepping stone, but I think this is just a good moment for Kenny King to kind of just put the Impact roster on notice because he hasn't really had a chance to do that in a while. Yeah, I agree. I think this is a way to evolve Kenny King into his next feud. He just points out that he's putting all the champions on notice. And he also continues to say, like, he won't say that he lost to Mike Bailey. He says he was victorious at exposing Mike Bailey as the homicidal maniac that he truly is. So it's a win for him in his book, the fight pit or the pit fight. I assume that Kenny King is going to be one of the 4 people in the no surrender match, the fatal 4-way for the number 1 contender, just because he's not going to be in the X Division title match unless there's an X Division like number 1 contenders match in there that they can throw him into. But I feel like they want established names for these 4 matches, and I think Kenny King is an established name. Yeah, no, I agree with that. And based off of who we have 2 matches announced that we'll talk about at the end. We know Macklin is in one of the unnamed matches. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see. But I think putting Kenny King in that situation to be in a number 1 contender spot makes sense at this stage. And again, he's somebody who also just signed a multi-year extension with Impact. After this was the part of the show that I freaked out about because Masha Slamovich is hanging out backstage and Bully Ray sees her and is like flabbergasted. Yeah, this was licking his lips. He's like, "Oh, hey, girl." He legit the fact that that's how he started this. Yeah, it was really weird. It was like freshman talking to freshman at college vibes. Yeah, this is like super senior versus finding the new hot freshman girl. Right, that's more accurate. You're right. Senior intimidating freshman girl at the party. Gets his hands over, like talking her up, like Nikki's looking over you, and she's making a mistake. You should be the new world champ. But yada yada. And then Masha speaks back in Russian, and Bully goes, "That's great." Yeah. Where does this go? I don't know. I hope this is literally the only I hope there's one interaction with them, and that is next week after the match with Dreamer and the Mickie and the Good Hands, that Mickie and Dreamer beat the Good Hands. Bully comes out and joins the Good Hands and beats the crap out of the 2 of them. Masha comes in, picks the bones, and then hopefully she just
leaves. She does not say anything. She doesn't interact with the Good Hands and Bully because that is a losing formula at this point. I thought I originally thought that the Good Hands were going to get elevated. They were going to be like a threat. No, the only thing they're there for is to look goofy. And you don't want to be put in this goofy, like, I'm a minion type gimmick.
I mean, maybe it pays off in like 15 years, like the major players.
True.
Which they might be actually the next scene, right?
They are the next scene.
Yeah.
Matt Cardona and Brian Myers are backstage, and they want everybody to come to the interview area because they have the world premiere for their new music video.
It is genius. It's probably on their Twitter. I hope it's on their Twitter.
Yeah, I don't know if there was an official name to this song.
One.
But yeah, it's just absolute brilliance. It is Matt Cardona trying to rap over a generic beat. He talks about how, Joe Hendry looks kind of weird. He's got his blonde hair and his stupid black beard.
I got to date your mom.
Yeah, he talks about how, you're making fun of him and his wife. That's not cool. But it's okay because Matt Cardona's taking your mom out on a date. And right. they turned back and everybody is left except that one guy who was always in Swingers Palace. And he's like, oh, where'd everybody go? And he's like, you're going to take his mom out on a date? Does your wife know about that?
Yeah.
Which is a valid point.
Yeah.
But I guess once you're in different companies, anything goes.
Yeah, she's busy.
Yeah. I again, the major players in the digital media title feud makes sense, and I think that I hope this is a long-term feud for Joe Hendry and Cardona and Brian Myers. I just think that there's money to be made with these guys doing their goofy shit over and over again.
Yeah, they should let it ride. Especially they should give, if this Cardona one fizzles out. Because let's say like he's gone after these tapings. I have no idea really.
Hey man, he's announced for GCW almost all the way to Mania now.
Yeah,
so It seems like he's sticking around the Indies.
Yeah, okay. So King of the Indies, he's sticking around.
Yeah. And he has his NWA title shot coming up.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
Taurus.
Yeah.
Oh boy. My goodness, that video, the song Joe Hendry did last week was incredible.
Absolutely, Edge's bitch is a bop.
Yeah, Edge's bitch is like that was brilliant. So that's what I mean. The good hands could be long-term storybooking, storytelling here. 15 years later, you're gonna be remembered as Bully's bitches, and then you're going for digital media titles.
I'm for it.
Yeah,
and making great rap songs.
Yeah.
After this, we have the news or we get our little rundown of matches for next week. We've got the Good Hands and Dreamer and Mickie. We've got the two singles matches, the first two of the four, which are Dirty Dango versus Brian Myers and PCO versus Shira.
Yeah, a lot of going on there, I feel like.
Yeah. Hey, man, Angelo, I don't know about you, but I thought of something.
Yeah.
PCO is from Canada.
Think they're going to put the belt on him when they're in Canada?
I think he's going to challenge for the belt in Canada. Him versus Josh, two Canadian superstars at their peak. That screams like a money match.
No, I think he'll get a win over Eddie Edwards in Canada.
Well, they're no, that's gonna be the Rebellion match. It's gonna be PCO versus Josh, and Josh is gonna drop the title to PCO.
Well, you know what?
We could only hope.
Yeah, for my prediction to come true, we can only hope.
But in seriousness, I think PCO is gonna beat Shira. I think that's pretty clear.
Yeah.
I think Dirty Dango could beat Brian Myers in that match.
Yeah, you know what? This would put my other prediction in jeopardy pretty quickly. I don't think. Like I said, I don't think. I think Brian Myers wins. Yeah, I don't know.
Okay, that's fair.
We only got a week to wait for that.
Yeah,
because this is probably as good of an opportunity as it's going to get for Dirty Dango to win. Like if he loses here, he absolutely is not winning again in a singles match for the rest of the year.
Yeah,
like on BTI against Aiden Prince.
Yeah. We also have Steph DeLander versus Jordan Grace next week, and Joe Hendry versus Matt Cardona for the Digital Media Championship, as well as Killer Kelly and Taylor Wilde versus the Death Dolls. So it seems like we've got a loaded card next week, based on all of that.
It's a busy card.
Yeah. Anyway, after this, it is our main event. It is the Design and the Design and Callihan versus Josh Alexander, Kaz, Yuya Uemura, and Rich Swann. And I think that I think this is a match that shows that Big Kon from the Ascension, Kon from the Design at this point, has clearly grown as a competitor from last year when he had like a 15-second match basically with Josh Alexander.
Yeah,
because he was able to get out of the ankle lock this time instead of tapping the moment his ankle was touched.
Yeah, I mean they're making the whole design look pretty strong. Honestly.
Yeah.
I mean, so one note near the end of the match where kind of Josh Alexander kind of comes in to help. I thought this was a really important note. He went for his C4 spike on Diener. Diener got out of it and countered.
Yeah.
So I think I think it was the C4 spike he was going for, but it basically like showed Diener is competent. You know.
Yeah.
You know, he didn't get just immediately crushed like he would 6 months ago. So,
yeah. He's grown.
He has grown. Yeah. So that's kind of big there, and I think that could be a telltale sign of how the design's going to be handled going forward.
Yeah. We also got towards the end of this match, Sammy was going for his pile driver, and Diener stopped him from going for it.
Yeah.
And Josh came in and knocked them both loopy for a bit. But I was very confused by this because he ended up using it and Diener did it with them.
Well, it's like he wants him to use it because he did that last week too, where he like before Rich Swann was about to get hit with it. Rich Swann never did, but like he wants him to use it, but it's kind of just like he wants to control it. I don't know.
Yeah, it's still weird.
Like if you're trying to win a match, like why interrupt that? Yeah. But.
Yeah. It's I don't get it. Maybe it'll be clear soon. I don't know what steps 5, 6, and 7 are for these 7 deadly steps.
Yeah,
but he got his forgiveness because Sami Callihan pins Yuya Uemura, and celebrates with the design. And definitely not what I expected the ending of the show to be.
Happily ever after. So a couple things I want to talk about, and not even necessarily about the main event, but kind of around it. Who did you think was going to win that 6-shooter last week?
I thought Callihan was going to.
Callihan too, by a mile. Like not by a mile, but I thought it was like you're kind of building up the design. I don't really have faith in the design being a long-term project without Eric Young. That's kind of like what we both kind of decided.
Yeah.
When we last talked about it. So I was like, okay, this is a good spot for Callihan to like, get, a world title match, make the design kind of big for a little bit, and give Josh a heel opponent. Rich Swann is like, it's just a weird spot because it's like he's really got he has no momentum besides winning that match. He literally lost to Macklin right before that.
Yeah,
and at least like they're not insulting her intelligence. Like Macklin is, week in week out making his case with Santino about that.
Yeah,
they're not insulting her intelligence like WWE used to. Every week. But I just it'll be a fun match, right? Rich Swann's a good talent, but like there's no meat to this storyline. They're not gonna flip Rich Swann heel for 2 more weeks of a feud. So it's just kind of weird. I think to choose this match, you're basically just punting away this pay-per-view by doing that, in my opinion. Unless you really make this main event basically like all about Bully Ray versus Tommy Dreamer, because like the world title is not the most important thing this time. I think
I've got no idea.
Yeah, but like that's what I mean. Like they kind of just punted away the pay-per-view, and I think they're just gonna let Bully Ray be like, I main evented another pay-per-view, yada yada.
Yeah, I mean, I think Josh and Rich are gonna have a fantastic match.
I think they have a fantastic
but I think
match.
that can't be your thing every time, and I feel like that's been a lot of the matches towards the end of this. The like Kaz versus Josh.
Mean, when you go through the whole roster like that, there's only so many feuds you're gonna have, and how much can you build up short term?
Yeah.
It just feels like a throwaway when you have the Sammy looming and Macklin looming, and there's other factors, and Bully Ray clearly wants a rematch. Like there's other heel pieces in there that it does feel weird. Rich is getting his moment here.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I think that the rest of the card, as of right now, also doesn't scream like this is a major show that you should, be focusing on.
Yeah.
We've got a fatal 4-way for our number one contenders. We don't know who any of them are, but one of them is going to be either Dirty Dango or Brian Myers, and the one of the other ones is either going to be PCO or Shira. And neither of them scream like, okay, this is a legitimate threat to the title at the next pay-per-view after that.
Well, it's going to definitely be, I would presume it's Macklin, PCO, because Macklin's going to get a qualifier.
Yeah.
Maybe Macklin could win here, but realistically probably not in a fatal 4-way. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, this is more like, I guess, an Impact Plus show than like
it is, yeah,
blown out pay-per-view. But still, it's like, you have to hash out these storylines on television, and that this is what you gotta now spend the next 2 weeks doing.
Yeah. We've got Masha versus Mickie still, which could be good.
Could be good, but again, they're punting away the story here to maybe build something different with Bully and Tommy.
Yeah. And I think that's all that's been announced at this point for this show.
Fine. Yeah,
Oh, and Trey Miguel versus Crazy Steve.
Right. And it sounds like we'll probably get like a rematch of Death after next week. We'll get a rematch of Death Dolls and whatever Taylor and Mickie or Taylor and Killer Kelly are.
Oh, so speak of the devil, they have announced the other 2 matches.
Well, remember I said the Jonathan Gresham and Mike Bailey.
Yeah. So the other 2 that is not for one of the qualifiers for this fatal 4-way.
No, it's not. You're saying the other 2?
Yeah.
Yeah. Gotcha.
It is Steve Macklin versus Rhino.
Okay.
And Eddie Edwards versus Heath.
Oh, all right.
So
I think the only one that is not a guarantee is the Eddie Edwards versus Heath. I think you can go either way with that.
Yeah.
I would imagine your favorite's Eddie Edwards, but I think there's an outside chance Heath wins.
Yeah.
If Rhino beats Macklin, if there's some screwy way that Rhino wins, that would add fuel to the fire. Because
my thinking is PCO could lose to Shira now, because of Eddie, like costing him. PCO that could then do the same to Eddie against Heath, and that's how you get the Eddie versus PCO, like a match at No Surrender.
Yeah, which I guess they won't then at No Surrender.
Yeah, it could. You could do it. I don't know.
Yeah,
because that would come full circle. Because we remember, Eddie Edwards turned Honor No More turned on PCO in Vegas and buried him out in the desert, and they're going to be in Vegas for No Surrender here. So,
well, even
long-term
them getting to
storytelling
face each other in the fatal 4-way would be like kind of a way to like they're hashing it out, but they don't actually have their match. They'll probably like chase each other outside the building, and then whoever's the 2 left, like Macklin, pins the other.
Yeah.
Something like that,
Yeah. They also announced for No Surrender that after No Surrender, after No Surrender, Busted Open is going to be live at wherever, and it's going to feature Tommy and Dreamer and Mickie. So I guess that storyline isn't ending if they're advertising all three of them to be on air about something.
Yeah, no, I mean, Bully's not going away. It doesn't seem
no. But it also seems like the Mickie versus him also isn't going away. Which, God damn it!
Right. Oh boy.
End this. Anyway.
All right. So my last comment then for this,
yes,
real quick. So I was like kind of flipping back and forth between the AXS TV and then once it hit 8:30, I was watching the YouTube version.
right.
So I never watched the AXS TV version. It's the same damn thing except the commercials. But what was interesting in the commercials was how heavily they were promoting the New Japan stuff at 10 o'clock.
Yes.
So I thought that was like, I don't see any of that really besides the one snippet that they do during the show. No, it was every single commercial break.
Yeah, I think that AXS is realizing that there's a lot of people who are interested in New Japan again, and
especially because they're showing their pay-per-view matches. So
it's
good.
Which
good
again, like I pointed out in our group chat last week or a few weeks ago when they started running the or the Wrestle Kingdom matches, I was like, damn. Like normally they wait a little. They used to wait a couple-year-old till March to do these, and now they're showing them like 2 weeks later. You're getting these matches, and one of them was arguably the best match, like a match that's going to be up for match of the year in Ospreay versus Kenny Omega on free television, basically.
Right. Well, and it didn't get a lot of viewers, but it did get more than Impact did.
Right. So I think they realized that, people are going to tune into this. So why not keep advertise it more heavily? Because when I used to watch on AXS before the YouTube thing came out, there was none of that. Like there's like one or two ads and for New Japan, but it wasn't like they didn't advertise the matches other than right before the show ended. They'd be like, oh, and don't forget, tune in. These are your matches for tonight's New Japan show. And they're like matches from 3 months ago. So I had already seen them if I wanted to see them. Or it was matches that were years ago that they were just like, hey, we're just going to throw these on there because New Japan didn't have anything recently.
Yeah, exactly.
So, it's interesting to see AXS promoting them more heavily than they used to. But I think that definitely shows that they think that more people will tune in to watch it than they expected.
Yeah, and hopefully it's a reciprocal effect. Like people are tuning in for New Japan, and then people that are watching Impact stick around for New Japan, like kind of thing. So,
yeah, absolutely. And again, commentary also. I mean, the New Japan Impact relationship seems to still be going strong. So I do think you have that crossover appeal still, at least with some Impact fans to stick around and watch.
True.
Maybe not the same for like New Japan fans, like who are, they want to watch New Japan. They're not going to tune in 2 extra hours beforehand to get to what they're watching. But, I think there is some crossover appeal between them.
Right. There's some at least, and like a match like when they did the Bey and Austin versus Kushida.
Yeah.
As opponent.
Yeah, and I mean the commentary pointed out that with No Surrender coming around, you never know who's going to show up, and it seems like at least for the tapings, it's being reported that there will be a lot New Japan talent showing up. So, yeah. Well, as long as they keep doing that, I feel like as long as the relationship's strong, I feel like there'll be that crossover appeal still.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah. Other than that, guys, I think that's it. Oh, we didn't say. How did you like the show, Angelo? Thumbs up, thumbs down, thumbs in the middle.
You know what? I'll say I'm in the middle.
Yeah, I'm gonna say the same thing. I think the opening match was really strong, and then the middle part was kind of way too long.
Yeah, no, and we'll see. We'll see if it gets better. I'm hoping for better things, but the Bully Ray lurking. He's a great heel. Don't get me wrong, but I think
he knows how to get the heat.
He knows how to get the heat, but him without like a direction with someone that's not Mickie James is just not pleasing. So we'll see where it goes. And maybe this Tommy Dreamer feud really becomes something that really gets us invested. That's what I'm hoping for.
Yeah, maybe it's because I don't listen to Busted Open regularly, and like I'm missing things. I really don't think I need a feud all about people who show up on Busted Open.
You're missing anything, but in theory, it could bring in more eyeballs because there's these two guys that are known. They're wrestling, but now people listen to them on Sirius XM.
Yeah,
they're going to be feuding on TV weekly for free. So like that could theoretically bring in eyes, and that's probably the thought behind it.
Yeah,
worth the shot. You're trying to get more viewers on this show. You can't be happy with just the current viewership. You want to grow and become better because there's a lot of good wrestlers on the roster, and they're not getting the eyeballs they deserve. Like Josh Alexander could be getting, he could be on AEW wrestling and have 800,000 to 1 million people watching him. So that's our takes. Let us know what you guys thought on Twitter, again at Deep Six Wrestling, or on the YouTube Deep Six Wrestling Podcast. But for that, thank you guys for listening, and we'll talk to you next time. Thanks.